this. We tend to think of the worst case scenario, and that's what keeps us stuck. Analysis
Yeah.
paralysis, not taking action.
Yeah.
So I talked myself into quitting because I was like, the worst case scenario, I have to get another job. That is the worst case scenario. And then I decided, was that so bad?
Right.
And I had some money saved up in my bank account. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a self proclaimed sabbatical. I'm going to take some time off, do a little bit of travel. And well, what am I? 7 years later, I've never gotten another job. Get clear on their why. So let's say, for example, it could be a guy in his 40s or 50, and he just wants to be around and present for his children. So if
Yeah.
he has a strong why and a driver, I have to take care of myself to be there for his kids. Now he has a why. He has his motivation. And a lot of people come to me, I get messages all the time. How do I get and stay motivated? Motivated is not external. You have to have that strong why. Like, for example, nobody motivates me to go to the gym or to create content. I have my why.
All right, excellent. Well, I really want to thank everyone for joining me again for another episode of Define Your Purpose. Purpose is the birthplace of ideas, and I am really excited to welcome a brilliant mindset coach today, all the way from Denver, Colorado. And she's someone who works hard to empower people to upgrade their mindset and transform their life. Heather Hakes, thanks so much for joining me today.
I am stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to our talk for a while now. You've got a lot of great coaching experience to share. I guess I usually ask people how they got started and what got you into coaching.
I'll give you long story short. So I
Okay.
did what we're conditioned to do. I went to college. I got a degree. I got another degree. I climbed the corporate ladder, and I wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled. And I think a lot of people can feel that internal, like that inkling, the nudge, you're meant for more. And I followed mine. And so to bring it full circle, my dream as a little girl was to be a teacher. And I remember getting to college and found out they made 35 grand a year. And I was like, that's
Wow.
not going to work for me. So I went an alternate route. And then, I think that's where life kind of redirects you. Whatever, your big thing is purpose, but whatever lights you up and brings you joy, that is your purpose. So anyway, I took a leap of faith in 2017. I quit my corporate job. I had absolutely no plan other than there had to be another way. And all of that and my personal development and all of it led me into podcasting and getting into coaching. And I'm working on my second book, and I freaking love what I do. So that's how I got. Like I fell off track following conditional societal norms, and then I got back to like my what lights me up, my zone of genius.
That's great. That's awesome. So you just kind of were feeling worn out in the corporate world and like you couldn't go on at one point?
I just remember, and I'm a pretty high energy. I get stuff done. Like I'm here to live my best life and full of adventure. But I just remember I was going through the motions. I used to complain to my parents that every day feels like Groundhog Day. In the mornings, I would hit snooze 2 or 3 times. And when you're doing that, when you're procrastinating as the first start of your day, like you have to know you're off track. And anyway, it finally got to a point that I had been asking for more work. I was bored to tears. I wasn't being challenged. And so I quit.
Mhm. And so you didn't know where you were going at that point. You didn't have a backup plan or anything. You were just like, I'm had enough of this.
Yeah, and I'll share this because it's in my first book. So I in spirituality, there's this kind of phrase, the universe has your back. Like when you
Mm,
follow those nudges and those inklings, the resources and people and the things you need will come, but you have to take action, right?
mm,
So I quit
mm,
my
mm,
job with no plan. And I found out the next day
mm,
after I had given notice, my boss's boss came to me, Heather, we're going to miss you so much. And he slid me a white sheet of paper. And on this paper was a six-figure payout I was going to be getting because the company had IPO'd a month prior. Now, again, I didn't
mm,
know I was getting
wow,
anything because I was definitely lower on the totem pole. But I just
mm,
want people to know when you jump, like when you take that leap of faith, resources and opportunities will come your way. And I've heard this in
mm,
countless ways from other people, but you have to take the first step.
yeah, yeah, that's great. But you went ahead and you told him, "No, you're not
No, no, no.
you're not going back?"
I'm saying I had already quit, but I was going to be getting that six-figure pair anyway. Like that money
Okay,
was mine.
right, okay.
So then obviously now I had more cushion. I wasn't
Mm,
stressed to
I
here's
see.
how I talk
Yeah,
myself into it, and I want to invite people to do this. We
mhm,
tend to think of the worst case scenario, and that's what keeps us stuck. Analysis
yeah,
paralysis, not taking action.
yeah,
So I talked myself into quitting because I was like, the worst case scenario, I have to get another job. That is the worst case scenario. And then I
mm,
decided, was that so bad?
right,
And I had
yeah,
some money saved up in my bank account. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a self proclaimed sabbatical. I'm going to take some time off, do a little bit of travel. And well, what am I? 7 years later, I've never gotten another job.
right? That's great.
Yeah.
So, was coaching the natural next step for you? I mean, was it something you'd always kinda done helping people with different problems, or how
I
did
have
that
been
come
reading
about?
personal development books since I was a teen.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so I've
Nice.
always been fascinated by
Mhm.
psychology and human potential. I can't say that coaching was something even that I thought was a thing,
Right.
but because I was in these
Mm,
different personal development groups and surrounding myself with entrepreneurs and like-minded people, it just became the next step.
mm, awesome. Yeah. So, w when did you come up with kind of a system to help people with then? How did that start?
You know what? I think that's what holds a lot of people back, perfectionism. I have to have it all
Mm,
perfect. And
mm,
I very much more like I just jump in and get started and I
mm,
will adapt and innovate as I go. So I
mhm,
remember somebody on Facebook came to me, Heather, will you coach me? And I was like, oh, I can make money doing this. So I started out a 4 pack. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had already had
mm,
several coaches, so I know what I had paid
mm,
thousands. But I
mm,
started out a 4 pack coaching package, $500, and then I just started teaching what I know. And now what I
mm,
do today is,
awesome.
I mean, so much different, but I learned
Mm,
along the way and I learned through coaching and I continually invest. And now I have systems and processes and frameworks and foundations and now I have a smooth running machine. Yes.
that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you'd like to talk about a little bit of that and how you started working with people now.
So again, it's just innovated and I've changed since I started 7 years ago. But now I found a sweet spot. I started
Mm,
out with a 4 pack and then I
okay.
ventured and grew it into, well, that wasn't quite enough. So then I did a 6 pack. That wasn't quite enough. And so now what I offer, it's called 60 Days to Radical Change. I have
Mm, nice.
condensed it down into 8 weeks, 8 coaching calls, and some of my clients, that's all they need, and others love the accountability and the teaching, and they're so invested. I've had clients renew for several packages after that.
Mm,
But the foundational kind of, if you wanna think about it as level 1, is that 8 weeks full immersion, 60 days to radical change.
awesome. That's great. I like how you get so focused on each session like that. So, how do you go about someone who is helping someone who's really stuck in their ways and wants something different, but thinks that nothing different will ever happen to them?
So those are the kind of people that come to me, because if you're
Mm,
stuck in that
okay.
mentality, you're not seeking help. The
Mm,
people that come to me realize I literally got a message on LinkedIn 2 days ago from this gentleman. And so he reached out and sent a message, "I wanna F myself. I realize I have some poor habits." So he had enough self-awareness that what he's doing isn't working. He's got some habits he needs to change, and he's seeking accountability. So generally speaking, individuals that come to me have been watching my content, listening to the podcast,
mhm,
feeling stuck in their finances, their health, their relationships, hit that business plateau. Think about it like you kind of just fell into a slump. It's those individuals that realize what they're doing isn't working and they're seeking change.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, right on. So is it all kinds of people who come to you, or do you specialize maybe in a certain type of client?
Yeah, so I found a common denominator. I'd say 90% of my clients have been entrepreneurs and business owners. And then I
Okay.
have had a few, high level executives, or those really ambitious driven corporate individuals, but
Mhm.
primarily it's the entrepreneurs and business owners.
Okay. Nice. So, what does your program include then? Do you get into health and relationships and goals and
So here's what I want to offer. I have a free resource on my website called the Life Assessment. And so what I
Okay.
have individuals do is take this, and what you do is you rank the different major life buckets between a 1 and a 10, your
Mm,
satisfaction scale. So think about it. Your
mm, mm,
hobbies, your
mhm.
finances, relationships, health, work, all of those major life buckets, there is one common denominator: you. And
Right.
when you understand that you create every result in your life,
Mm,
and it comes
right.
down to three things. It's called your state of being. When you change your thoughts, emotions, and actions, you get new results. And that's why, as a mindset coach, I go to the root cause. It is that state of being, your mindset, your habits, your emotions that drive your behaviors and create every result. And
Yeah.
that's why when you work on that, everything is affected for the better. So there's areas of life which maybe are going well, but you can use those skills and that mindset and those habits to pour into the other areas that aren't going so well. And that's what I find with most people. Most of
Mhm.
my clients are very successful in business, but their relationships, not so much. And
Right. Mm,
honestly, every single block that anybody faces always comes down to a limiting belief. So it doesn't matter if your finances, your relationships, whatever is being affected, you have a limiting belief, which is the root cause. I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, self doubt. And it's
mhm.
those beliefs that drive the inaction, like procrastination, distraction, feeling overwhelmed, creating unwanted results. That's it. That's why change is
Mm,
simple. It's just not necessarily easy at first, but you got to build the mindset muscle.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. So, do you have any techniques that you that have been especially helpful in changing people's rituals or habits and making them more effective?
I mean, I have a ton of frameworks. And again, that's
Okay.
what I teach in
Mhm.
the 60 Days to Radical Change. But here's what I want to
Mhm.
offer
Okay.
individuals.
Mhm.
Something that I just talked about, there's a 3-step process, and it's what I call the thought cycle. I teach this all of the time in my content.
Mm. Okay.
You understand the thought cycle. So let me explain it. The
Okay. Yeah.
first domino in reality creation are your thoughts, because it's your thoughts that then drive your emotions, create your emotions, whether
Mm.
you're feeling empowered or bored, or overwhelmed or stressed. And it's your emotions that then drive your behaviors, your habits, and your actions. So
Mm.
your
Mm.
thoughts, emotions, and actions create every result. So you can use this thought cycle and literally reverse engineer. So let's say it's your
Mm.
health, or your finances, or your relationships. So you can look at your current results and back it up. What are the habits? Most of them aren't serving you, procrastination, distraction, whatever they are. What are your habits? What are the emotions you constantly find yourself in? So if it's stress, worry, doubt, fear, feeling insecure, and remember, thoughts are the first domino. So that's why the first step to creating change in your life is awareness.
Mhm.
Become aware of those three pieces, and then you can start taking new behaviors based on thoughts and emotions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I like that. So I I wonder then if someone does get to the point that they're doing new things and they still feel hesitation. A lot of people have a problem with confidence and and the imposter syndrome sort of thing. So they maybe switch careers and and fall prey to that. Do you have any special ways that you help people with that sort of thing since it's so common?
100%
Oh,
because
great.
I've been there, done that. And so what I say is use the ABCs. Action builds confidence.
Mm,
You
nice.
have to get off the sidelines. And I think
Mhm.
people fear failure, but you have to understand, and this is a mindset shift. Failure is part of the process. You're going to fail. So
Yeah,
fail
yeah.
fast and fail early. And so what I'll share with you in 2017, when I went from employee to entrepreneur, which is a total identity shift, I was full of
Mm,
self-doubt, procrastination, and imposter syndrome. So
mm.
Karl, let me ask you, based on what I just shared on that thought cycle, do you think somebody with self-doubt, feeling like an imposter, and procrastinating on taking actions is going to have the impact and income that they desire?
No, especially if those are the things you're supposed to be helping other people with, right?
Right. And so that's why when you understand, like, I had to go through that and overcome all of that so I can help other
Yeah,
people. And
yeah.
that's where, like, the real frameworks really came
Mm,
into play. So I got really clear. Somebody full of self-doubt, feeling like an imposter, who am I to do this? Comparing myself to people in the industry 40 years ahead of me, right? Tony Robbins.
right.
Um, I had to get out of my own way, and so that's really a
Yeah.
headline I use all the time, "Get out of your own way," and that's why
Mhm.
start with where you're at, be where your feet are, and so I had to, number 1, create my why, purpose, right? I am a
Mhm.
purpose-driven entrepreneur, and my purpose is, I know how bad it feels to be stuck, and I wanna help people break free, and it's all mental barriers.
Mm. Yeah.
So those 3 things, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, procrastination, were my greatest gift because I had to shine a light on them, see them for what they were, talk myself into possibility, and then again, I came up with my strong why, if I could help one person.
Mm.
And that is what created consistency, creating content, and now, yesterday I
Mm.
released podcast episode 652.
Wow. Awesome.
How did I get there? I stayed
Congratulations.
consistent and I have a why, and those are my drivers.
Mm. That's really awesome. I'm just short of 100.
That's amazing, but you had to start at 1, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Karl, was your first one good?
Not so much.
Yeah. My first probably few dozen weren't great, and now I can
Mhm, mhm,
rip and talk, like, but I put in the
mhm,
reps.
mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's it's there's a lot of things like that, I guess, too, that you just have to do it when you're bad at it and you don't feel like it and it's no fun.
Right, or even think about, and I just broke 1,000, like, that's a big deal on YouTube, but
Mm. Yeah.
people who wanna be YouTubers, you're gonna start with 0 subscribers.
Right.
Everybody out there started with 0,
Mhm, mhm.
and then
Yeah.
maybe your first couple are your mom, right? But you
Mhm.
have to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the starting part is lots of times the hardest
Yeah,
part to get past.
yeah,
That if you can just put in the first, 10 minutes, then it's the first hour, and you just put in the first day and
yeah. Well, even I
keep doing
remember
that.
it becomes a lifestyle, and it really is about your identity. But even think
Mm.
about gym
Yeah.
goers, the hardest part is getting there. So
Mhm.
set yourself up to win. Set your shoes out by the door so there's no procrastination, and like set yourself up to win.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree. Do you I like to ask people about success stories also. Do you have any that maybe stand out in your mind over the past few years?
Myself or clients? What are
Or for clients?
So again, I love what I do, and even podcasting, I get to connect with people from all over the world. But a couple
Mm,
stories top of mind. So I remember one client came to me, Patricia. She had, I think she had actually been let go from her job, but she had been sitting on the fence for months, full of procrastination and self doubt, but
mm,
loved dogs, had this huge passion and knowledge about dog food. And she wanted to start this dog treat business. And that's why she came to me. So full of
mm,
self doubt and procrastination. So we went all in. And by the time, end of our coaching package, and she just did the first initial one, she launched her business. She so it was all about accountability and taking steps and breaking it down, right? I think a lot of people get
mhm, mhm.
overwhelmed thinking big
Yeah.
picture. How do you run a marathon? One step at a time. How do you start a business? Get really clear on the end goal and then backtrack. Okay, what can I do today? So that was a huge one.
Mhm.
She got off the fence. She created confidence, decisions. She was taking action, and she launched her dog treat business. That was huge.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you said you had another one in mind maybe?
Gosh, I
That
have several.
recently?
I think another client that's coming to mind, again, so he was very successful in business, eight-figure business owner.
Mm,
So very financially successful, but completely stressed, burned out, not sleeping well, not present for he's married with two children, two younger boys. h- on every vacation, took his laptop, didn't have boundaries at work, was constantly taking on projects. And it came down to he was feeling the need to prove his worth.
mm.
So by
Wow.
the end of our coaching, he had finally gone on a week's cruise with his wife and his two boys. He didn't take his laptop. He said it was the most amazing week of his life. I helped him create some SOPs um, to get really clear on the work he wanted to do so he could create boundaries and start saying no. He
Mm,
got back into doing jujitsu 2 days a week at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and was coaching one of his boys' soccer. So he
nice,
was no
nice.
longer stressed and burned out. He was being a
Mm.
part of his family, taking back his health, and like he just had more freedom.
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's great. That's a really good story also because I think it's not always just about having a better career and moving up the ladder or succeeding with more goals. There's fulfillment and personal fulfillment and happiness that I think helping people find that is equally important too.
Right. And we know money doesn't bring happiness, right? Think about all the people in
Mhm,
Hollywood.
mhm, mhm.
And this
Yeah,
guy had eight figures. And so
mhm,
freedom was what he was looking for. And that came down to boundaries and
mhm,
habits.
mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that, a lot of people hire coaches just for the achievement aspect, but there's a lot more that you can find help with as far as when you really gain some more self-awareness from having another perspective like that.
For sure.
Um, so I wonder, when you're working with someone on mindset, um, how can you tell that you've reached a great milestone or that you've really changed their their mindset?
It's
You
the
know,
small wins, and
see.
that's why change
Mm,
is simple, and it's, uh,
mhm,
my recent client that just signed with me, so she's in corporate, but she's bored to tears. She lacks motivation. She gets out of bed, gets her son to school. She goes back to bed.
Mhm.
Her evening, like she's not taking care of herself. So she's
Mhm.
going to be an easy one to see because it's going to be very habit based. But I also know she has deep rooted limiting beliefs. I'm not enough. And
Mhm.
so she is
Mhm.
unconsciously, and a
Mhm.
lot of people can relate to this, unconsciously, meaning it's not part of your awareness, self sabotaging her happiness and success because she feels not enough. And so when
Yeah.
you uncover the cause, that belief,
Mhm.
I'm not enough, and remember, go back to the thought cycle. So she has this deep rooted belief, I'm not enough, which is leading to actions of procrastination, um, and feeling bored and unmotivated, creating shitty results.
Mhm.
So when you change those, which that's what it's going to be, it's about literally it comes down to reprogramming your subconscious mind, and that's exactly what I do as a mindset coach. And then it's showing up for yourself every day. It's like having that self-love and self-compassion that you wouldn't let yourself procrastinate on your dreams any longer. You wouldn't keep drinking a bottle of
Mhm.
wine a night because you know it doesn't make you feel good and it's not. So really, you got to come up with that clear why and the purpose because
Yeah.
that will drive the behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like part of the reason people get stuck also is because of the health aspect that they fall into eating processed foods with little nutritional value, and they don't get enough sleep, and maybe if they're drinking or whatever, it's even worse. I mean, how do you I guess that's a one step at a time thing also, if you have a client dealing with all those things.
Right.
Mhm.
But look, even that would be all habit based. And if you get
Mhm.
really clear on
Yeah.
the why, so that one, let's say that it's health related, right? They really want to lose
Mhm.
weight, get more energy because they're just lethargic.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's 100% habit based. So if
Yeah.
you get clear on their why. So let's say, for example, it could be a guy in his 40s or 50, and he just wants to be around and present for his children.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
he has a strong why and a driver, I have to take care of myself to be there for his kids. Now he has a why. He has his motivation. And a
Mhm.
lot of people come to me, I get messages all the time. How do I get and stay motivated?
Mhm.
Motivated is not external. You have to have that strong why. Like, for example, nobody motivates me to go to the gym or to create content. I have my why. But again, back to this health one, if you have
Mhm.
that strong why, you want to be around for your kids, then taking care of yourself becomes a number one priority,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
means it's going to be a lifestyle change. And maybe that is meal prepping and cooking at home. Now you create a family affair, right? And it's getting movement. Maybe it's starting with an evening walk. Like you have to start somewhere. I don't think
Mhm.
you can go couch
Mhm.
to marathon. Like that's why 92% of New Year's resolutioners fail. They create these big, hairy,
Mhm.
audacious goals, but they're not changing their thoughts, emotions, actions.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that would be habit
Mhm.
based. When we get clear on his why,
Mhm.
being that healthy individual and like really imagining and who would that be? What are his thoughts, emotions, and actions? Now we're creating consistency and you'll start to see the change.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the nutritional aspect can have an effect on your thoughts also. That if you're not getting enough oxygen or nutrients to your brain, your brain is no longer effectively working.
Right.
So I just I have fallen into, in the past I had some bad habits, and really made a ton of changes, and just felt such a difference from doing that I'm it really turned me into a proponent of better self-care. And I think it really affects your mind more than people give it credit for, because I think people fall into this kind of um, worshiping the mind, they with educational benefit. This is good. And there's people tend to forget about the health aspect of if you don't physically take care of your mind also, then it won't work for you.
Well, and I think I'd actually contradict that. I think people are obsessed with the body.
Mm,
Like, you can see, there's this great
mm,
meme that says you can drink the alkaline water, you can eat a vegan diet, you can go to yoga, but if you don't deal what's going on in your head and your heart, you're still unhealthy.
mm.
So when we're
Yeah, yeah.
externally focused just on, I know a lot of
Mhm,
unhealthy gym rats.
mhm. Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's
it's
very
a
true.
holistic approach, I
Right.
think is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, definitely. No, I was I like thinking of examples, but they can get kind of vague after a while too. So maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about your second book that you said you were working on now.
I'm gonna wait till that's out, but more or
Okay.
less, it's kind of like, because I know not everybody can invest in coaching, but I want
Mm,
these principles and frameworks available to the masses, and if you can afford a $20
nice.
book to actually read and apply the principles, and so what it really is creating a practical guide on how to change your mind and transform your life.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
great. So you try to make your coaching more affordable for people who are just getting started also?
I have multiple offers, so some of it I do group coaching, so that's at a
Mm,
very low
yeah,
tier, that's a very accessible for most people, and then those ones that want the one-on-one, that's definitely more a high-end, high ticket.
sure. Okay. And what's the best way to get a hold of you? I mean, you're obviously on LinkedIn a lot.
Yes, the best place to start would be my website, it's Heather Hakes, HAKES.com. My website has links to all my social, my podcast, my YouTube channel, it has
Right.
free resources, so that's where I would start.
Okay. Awesome.
Mhm.
Great. Um, did you have any other final thoughts that you wanted to end with, or that you maybe wanted to say to someone who's thinking about getting started on some personal development?
I think the greatest thing that I'd love to shout from the rooftops is you can create an extraordinary life, one in which you can't wait to wake up
Mm,
to every single day. That you can have, be, and do experience anything you can imagine when you get out of your own way, when you are consistent and like it's called being a conscious creator of your reality. So being mindful and intentional of your thoughts and your emotional state and your actions. When you stay top of mind, like the
mm.
sky is not the limit, your belief system is.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it all makes a difference. All your thoughts, everything that you do actually. So I like to say when we walk with purpose, we collide with destiny.
Mm, yeah, love that.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Heather. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
Yeah, we'll have to catch up again sometime. Maybe having some events coming up, so I'd love to have you chat again sometime. Well, thanks again, and take care. Have a great day. And